All right, let's get started. Welcome today and to our webinar, Incident Management 101, from Detection to Resolution. My name is Dan Giordano. I run marketing at Checkly. I've been in and around the dev tool testing CID space now for nearly a decade, and I'm also joined with our senior product manager, Ricard Nelson, who is going to be showing off today some of the newest features in Checkly, status pages, and what we're doing with incident management. So what we'll be covering today is all around incident management. What happens when an incident occurs? We'll talk a little bit about the life cycle and framework and how we think about it, what we need to do to communicate during an incident, postmortems that actually drive value, and then really the meat of today, we'll get to the demo of showing off a real live scenario with Checkly going from detection all the way to communication and resolution. So we have a jam-packed session. I will try to cover our slides as quickly as possible so we get to the live stuff. But again, feel free, put any questions we have in the Q&A, and we'll answer them at the end. All right, so a little bit about Checkly. We were founded in 2020. We have over 1,000 customers that are using us for monitoring, testing, and observability today. We have amazing enterprise customers like CrowdStrike, LinkedIn, Vercel, and Autodesk. And we are globally located. We have two offices, New York City and Berlin, but we have engineers and employees from over 17 different countries. We pioneered monitoring as code, which is how we came about, which is applying all of reliability and monitoring features and tool sets into a code-driven workflow, which we'll somewhat look at today. All right, so Checkly today is a modern monitoring platform. We're built for engineering teams, and we have multiple aspects of our platform today that help you detect, communicate, and resolve errors and defects in both local, staging, and production environments. We combine testing, monitoring, observability, and now today incident management in a way to help organizations, again, communicate their outages faster. We help them deliver drastically improved software quality, and we help them speed up software delivery by shifting all of this left into the developer's hands. So today's talk will be mostly around what happens when an incident does occur. So when a system downtime or performance degradation happens that we need to declare an incident, that is just the tip of the iceberg, both internally and externally. Internally, we have plenty to do from workflow, fixing the issue, diagnosing what happened, to actually now communicating with each other. And that provides a ton of opportunity for bad things to happen externally. You get things like frustrated customers, you get eroded trust when downtimes do happen and communication is poor. Even now today with postmortems and resolutions, engineering teams that are relying on other platforms and systems, they're looking for really complete postmortems that they can ingest, that they can give to their management, that allows them to trust the platform in the future. So it's not just internally what is happening, but it's also externally. And something like an incident management lifecycle and thinking about the world like this gives us a framework to actually solve both internal and external problems. So our first kind of, I guess, step here is detection and identifying the actual incident early and on, continuous. So today, as monitoring tools, we have proactive monitoring solution that will detect something whenever it goes down, either a HTTP endpoint, your website, a flow that happens within an application, or even a cron backup. That is the heart of detection, and that is where Checkly came out of. The next part is assessment and evaluating the incident's impact. This part is definitely different for all organizations. We'll walk through a little bit of severity severity, difference in severities. But this is something that every organization will look at differently, but it's very important to have rigid guidelines around what is an incident and what is not an incident. So we'll talk through that a little bit as well. Escalation, making sure that the right person, right teams are getting alerted. Again, both internal teams and making sure your customers are now communicated to, which will be a big focus of our demo today. And then actually resolving the incident is definitely a good idea to do in our incident management lifecycle. Once we've communicated, once we feel like the customer knows exactly how the system is behaving right now, we give them next steps, and then we go fulfill those next steps and hopefully go track down what went wrong, and we're able to fix the issue and update our communication. After all this is done, the customer is now having a happy system that is up and ready, up and working again. We now have our entire reflection step where we talk a lot about in our postmortems how we can assess what went wrong. We can talk about what went wrong in a very safe environment, and build protections in the future. Maybe we need something changed in a run book. Maybe we need something changed in how we assess the incident. But all of that is a good time to have during our reflection portion of the life cycle. So let's talk a little bit about severity and kind of how we try to classify it a little bit here. So these are just examples. You'll look at in our product, we actually label some of the severities that we have. But we have the example here of Sev 1, Sev 2, Sev 3. Just an order of priority of how impactful the outages are. You can see here severe 1 bug or incident. This is a critical outage. There's a there's a business impact that can be quantified, and either our core features set is down or a large subset, if not all of our customers are affected. The action here is, again, very severe. We're trying to fix this as quickly as possible to get to maybe we only get to the point where we now have a Seb 2 incident, but our action here is all hands on deck. Our on-call is going off. We have runbooks in place, especially for these, and we should have very clear guidelines since from a pyramid standpoint, this is the tip of the pyramid of priority. And we have something like a Seb 2 where maybe we have partial degradation, or we have something here, 10% of users can't log in. Maybe a payment is intermittently failing because of load on the system. These are very important. They should be fixed as soon as possible, and there are escalation policies in place. But again, the system is still working for majority of the users, majority of the feature set. And then lastly, something like a Sev 3 is going to be moderate minor bug that might come in that we still might want to declare if it affects maybe a subset of users that really deem that important, or maybe something like a UX bug that again affects the entire user base, but it might affect something like design and not functionality of the application. Something here to keep in mind is severity and priority in your engineering org are are mutually exclusive. So severity is maybe severity 3 can be low, but if it's something that is priority or something that breaks legal regulations or has a legal deadline, that's still going to be a priority 1 in your engineering flow of actually getting a ticket assessed once we go to a Jira ticketing system like Jira or something. So we don't want to get these confused where we already have P1, P2 tickets that we look at in a daily stand-up, and we have actually a board for it. This is incident resolution and is completely different from kind of the priority and just bug squashing that we might have going forward. Next portion here is communication, both internal and external. We'll be going through a lot of these tools today, but we have internal tools like Slack alerts. Maybe, again, you want to create a ticket in Jira. You want to update your incident management tool like PagerDuty or Rootly. That is all internal communication. It needs to happen absolutely at the clearest onset of detection of a downtime or performance degradation. You also really want to use really clear roles here. So we'll talk a little bit about incident commander, having people in place that are leading the incident, and not just everyone taking a passive role, offering what went wrong, but no one taking charge to actually go fix. Signal high, we want to keep documentation completely clear during an incident. So we want to document everything we're doing. We want to have timestamps, decisions logged, and make sure we're using automation when we can. If we can automate some of the logs that need to be used, some of the traces that need to be looked at, maybe what changed in our Git repository in the last 24 hours, we'll try to automate as much as possible on the internal side to make our speed and velocity increase. On the external side, we need to be clear, concise, and early. So we want to issue, as soon as we know something is going wrong, we want to be able to tell our customer base, our user base. We want to state the impact clearly, what they may be experiencing, and then we want to set expectations. So either clearly on the next update or when we think something is going to be resolved. But external communication, being clear and being early in actually communicating is extremely important. You also really want clear handoffs when things are happening in the middle of the night and you have teams coming in and coming out. So again, when we talk about incident commander and we having someone take charge, we want to be super clear with that handoff as you relay anything that's going on both internally and externally. Single source of truth on the external side is also very important. That's something we're going to talk about today with the idea that updating status pages, alert channels is all coming from a single source of truth, and you don't have to worry about having maybe your status page out of sync with your Slack alerts or maybe even your social media. So everything needs to be on time and not look different as you go through your incident resolution. All right, so the last part here we'll actually talk about is reflection and looking at postmortems that drive real improvements. So postmortems are extremely important to all facets of life improvement. We want to be looking at what exactly happened, both maybe earlier with code that we were changing or with what happened with the user and what they were experiencing. But we want to be extremely clear what could be improved in the future. So maybe a gap in monitoring that we had, maybe something that we could have been monitoring would have picked that up earlier. Maybe there was slow communication to customers because no one took the ball and ran with it. But we want to talk about really what we can improve and what went wrong. We also want to talk about what went well. This is something when you're in a group setting and something like incident management and you're dealing with an incident, things can get very heated, people can get very down. We want to keep both energy and cultural high. So we want to make sure that we're talking about, hey, what went well? We were able to automatically communicate to our customers that something was wrong. We alerted 2 different teams that were able to make the fix, and we got everything back up in 30 minutes. For a Sev 1 incident, getting back up in a short amount of time is important, and we want to celebrate those wins for sure. And then we want to talk about also what's next. So changes that we're going to make to our playbooks, changes that we're going to make to our monitoring strategy. All of these are incredibly important to talk about during our postmortem. And then always be blameless. We've talked about this in the reflection phase, but nothing is anyone's fault at this point. We want to talk about systems and processes and not people and get personal. So we want to make sure that what went wrong is correctly addressed in a way that makes that we fix a tool, we fix a process, but we don't have to talk about personally what individual broke something. So that is always best to keep in mind because guess what? In the future, things will also break and you will be in the same room again. And you don't want your culture to be slow to communicate incidents because they feel like they need to fix something because they don't want to be in that postmortem. So again, a very open culture really is beneficial to the customer at the end of the day. And chaos here in any incident is the enemy. Structure is always going to win, and having structure before something goes down is important. Having on-call rotations, making sure that they're clearly defined for all hours of the day and across teams, whether that is the on-call team or whether that's an engineering team that can assist in fixing the incident. We always want to elect an incident commander, someone to take charge and lead the entire process. They may go in and out, but again, we always want to have one person that can take control, communicate both internally and externally as a single source of truth. Besides the incident commander and having someone in charge, we do want to have clearly defined roles, engineering teams that are fixing things, maybe a scribe that is taking notes during everything and actually recording what is going on. Maybe we have a communications manager if marketing needs to get involved, if it's something important that we need to communicate on PR level. So all these things, they need to be clear, or all these people need to be clearly defined and assigned in the incident lifecycle. And then lastly, make sure you're using processes like runbooks and documenting what went wrong and what needs to be fixed in the future if this goes wrong again. You can always alleviate stress, alleviate any anxiety that happens during the incident when you already have the fix documented and you're going through kind of an experience that's already been documented. It can help quell any panic that is rising and also help you get back to a green system earlier. Now, talked a lot about a framework, ran through that. Now we'll just quickly switch to what we'll show today in our demo and how Checkly addresses a lot of this. So Checkly brings all of the reliability from detection, communication, and resolution, brings that across the SDLC to your entire team. So it allows you to run tests early on, catch bugs before they make it to production and they need to be detected in monitoring. But it allows you to run playwright tests early on in staging, local environments, detect bugs. Then once you're in production or on your staging environment and you have all of your APIs and you have a pretty live environment, you can also monitor that continuously. If anything goes out of sort, maybe in a staging or of course in production, that is when we start to get to the heart of the incident management portion. And we have things like alerting mechanisms with channels like Slack, SMS, PagerDuty, all the big integrations we have. And then also now with status pages. So we enable you to externally communicate that automatically when an incident occurs. And I think that's the beauty of what we'll look at today is going from reactive to proactive incident management. When something goes wrong in your application, we now can start the entire incident management lifecycle in an automated fashion and alert customers and internal users about this incident. So right now, I will stop sharing any of our slides and I'll turn it over to Ricard to kind of look through a live real case scenario.
All right, thank you, Dan. Let's see if I can get my screen sharing to work. There we go. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Awesome. All right. And let me just move this there. Okay. So welcome to Checkly if you haven't seen it before. So let me move this here as well. There we go. So let's talk about a little bit, how we work then with incident management in practice when you're using something like Checkly, and also have a look at how you can integrate with some adjacent tooling. And we'll focus here on the communicate and resolve steps of an incident. So we'll go ahead and assume that you've gone through the work of actually setting up, your monitoring already. And that is all well and good, but now we want to improve how do we communicate issues with our customers and how do we ensure that our teams know what to do and when to do it. So yeah, first of all, let's have a look at what we have here on our check dashboard. So we have two checks. One is an API check that monitors an API endpoint for our product. And then we have a browser check, which essentially runs a playwright script at a set frequency towards our landing page, making sure that everything is a-okay right there. So with our monitoring in place, we now want to have a way to clearly communicate to customers when something is wrong. And so let's have a look at how to set that up. I'll head over here to something we call services. And a service represents what you can call like a functional piece of your application or website. Could be a landing page, could be an API, could be your support portal, anything really that your customers care about and have an interest in understanding when it's broken or if it's broken. That is what a service represents. So from a monitoring perspective, you might have like a single check monitoring an entire service, or if it's a big thing, you might have multiple checks, each keeping an eye on different parts of the service. So an example here could be like your API service, for example, you might have monitoring on each API endpoint to make sure that all endpoints are functional, but it all comes down to a single service when it comes to communicating whether the service is functional or not to your customers. So for now, let's start by creating 2 new services for our status page. So we'll go ahead and add a shopping service because I'll turn this into a shopping page example. And then we also have a checkout. So people can basically shop on our webpage, and then they have a checkout service that allows them to pay and get things shipped. So with that in place, we will then jump over to status pages and start building our new page. So we'll call this Checkly Shopping. And first of all, we do have an existing, oops, I can't spell. Almost. There we go. So we have an existing authentication service already that we've set up. This represents our login system. And then we want to have a shopping and checkout, which is new. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating the structure of the page. So each of these boxes here represents a card, and a card allows you to manage one or multiple services on the same card. So this allows for aggregation, for example. We'll have a look at exactly what that looks like in a bit. Let's call this shopping again. And there we go. So this is all we need to create a basic status page. So we'll go ahead and create this. And then we get essentially a preview in the app of what the page will look like when it's live. And since it's already deployed, we can go ahead and just open it and see what things look like. So here we see a difference between a service that has been running for a while and a newly created one. So when a service is created, it starts gathering uptime data automatically. So for these new ones, we only have data from today, whereas for the authentication service, we've been gathering data for for months now. So we have 90 days of uptime data, essentially. And we can also see here how, shopping. Anyway, we can also see here how these checkout and shopping services then aggregate uptime. So if we want to, we can collapse these and you get a more compacted view. Cool. So now, if your team wants to have a human opening every incident and you want to have strict control, let's say from a human perspective on customer communication and escalation, we're kind of ready to go here. So whenever our monitoring breaks, whoever is in charge of customer communication would then go into the status page that you use for communications and open an incident. So let's say that our authentication, not gonna try again on spelling there, so we'll just go with auth issues for now. We'll say that this is pretty critical because we're having issues with login. So we'll provide a first update message. We'll select which service this has impacted. So in this case, authentication, and we'll give a status. We can choose whether to notify customers or not, or rather notify subscribed users or not. So go ahead and create this. So with notifications, anyone who subscribes to your status page will get automatic updates whenever an incident is posted. So in this case now, with the incident updated, anyone who has subscribed would get an email telling them that, hey, there's a problem here. You should probably be aware that authentication might be down for the Checkly shopping page. So let's have a look at what this looks like on the page. Yeah, and here we see we have one service experiencing issues. It's authentication. We'll get a new update in 20 minutes. So this is essentially the manual flow, right? So now let's go ahead and close this. We fixed it. Cool. And that closes this incident since we set the status to resolved. And everything is now back to green on the page. We can see that we had one incident here today. So this is how we essentially showcase historical downtime. And this is all well and good if you are okay with needing a human to step in as part of the incident management workflow. This typically slows down things a little bit, both in terms of you need to have a decision process in place of when do we communicate and who takes care of the communication. But it also leads to customers actually having to wait a little bit longer before they get an update. So if you want to, you can then use automation to speed all of this up and reduce sort of overhead for your team when they're in the middle of trying to figure out what's broken and why, right? So let's have a look at how we can automate specifically incident automation first then in Checkly. So again, we have this API check that is keeping an eye on one of our endpoints. And we will say that if this check goes down and alerts, we can say with very high confidence that we are having an issue with our API. So now if I forgot one thing. We should add our API here. So people actually get notified when things are done. Let's see, save. All right, cool. Good. So now we are also reporting uptime availability on our API service here for our shopping app. And so now with this API check that we think that if this is down and is alerting, then we're having an issue that is worth notifying our customers about. I will jump in here. I will go to incident automation for this check. I will say, please enable incident automation, and we'll fill in the incident template, right? So we'll give these default incidents that are open whenever this check starts alerting a name, a first status update, and a severity. And then we will select which service this impacts and whether we want to notify customers when an automated incident is posted or not. Cool. So we'll go ahead and save this. And then another thing that we can do, and this now we're talking more about, okay, so how do you actually keep your team up to date and let the team know what to do, and how can we work with sort of adjacent tooling together with our monitoring? And so what we are going to use then is our alerting. And here I've gone ahead and set up a webhook to automate a Jira ticket creation, right? So Jira has their automationing tool. So I'm just going to say that whenever I get an incoming webhook from this URL with a specific secret, then go ahead and create a new task in this project and link it to the failing check, essentially. So with all of that in place, go ahead and save this, and then let's see if we can break our API check there, and let's kick this off so that it starts running right away. Not yet. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, okay. So there we get a failure. So our API is having issues. We immediately get a Slack alert to the team who is responsible for managing this. If we're using something like OpsGenie, we could also send an alert directly there to notify the on-call person. Okay, so we can see we have a bunch of these: investigate, check, failure. This one just came in with a link to the failing check. And from a status page perspective, so we are now having an issue with our API. So we can see we have a automatically open incident. And if we check our status page, yep, there it is. This was automatically open, so no one needed to care, or worry about notifying customers. They automatically get that update. So now we've notified the team, we've notified our users. Let's look at how we fix this then. So from the Jira board, we get an automatic link to the check that is failing. We'll jump in here. We'll select the failing check result. And again, when we're working with incidents, time is really of the essence typically, especially when it's something like this. Our API is down. That is pretty bad, right? So what is really cool is to use something like traces and OpenTelemetry. So of course, you get a lot of other information from a failing check result as well, right? So we know we have a failing status code. That essentially gives us nothing in the body, right? We get some timings, we get the headers, but when time is of the essence, being able to narrow down the scope for your investigation is really, really good. And so if you hook up traces to your checks, what that means is that whenever your check fails, you will get the trace ID and the span ID specifically for that failure. And this just makes it really, really easy to narrow down your investigation scope and get people looking in the right place immediately, essentially. And this just makes troubleshooting things way, way faster, right? So I think that's pretty cool. And so from here, what we could do is we could either close this incident manually, as I showed before, and saying once we fix this issue that, hey, this is now fixed. Or, if it's a less urgent issue to look into, maybe this is, we just open an incident for a minor issue automatically and the check recovers because the system recovers, then this will also be closed automatically. And your customers would first get an update that, hey, we're having a problem with this thing. And then they get another update automatically when the check recovers and the incident resolves, that say the issue has been resolved. And your team doesn't have to do anything, but your customers will be notified and up to date, regardless of whether it's an on-call issue or not. Yeah, and that is pretty much it for today's look at how to use status pages, incident automation, and also a little bit on how to connect external tools with Checkly alerting, right? Yeah, this really can help your team to stay aligned and really also resolve issues way faster than if you're not using something like this.
Yeah,
Cool.
amazing. Even the communication, once the fix is in place, being able to automatically notify is just one less step that you have to take. All right, thank you, Ricard. We have a few questions, which is great. So we can go through those, and I'll ask you, and we can just get an answer. Although, yeah, half the list you did answer, so thank you for the thorough walkthrough. All right, first one's actually about the webhook. What can you include in the webhook? Is it always going to drive back with a link to the failing check? Is there any other information that you can send along in the body?
So you can customize the webhook body. So it's all a matter of, yeah, it's just a matter of customization in the end. So there's a limit on what information you can get from the check. But apart from, yeah, that's really the only limitation. Like the webhook is fully customizable, so you can send whatever you want to send. Really.
Okay, and then on that too, somebody asked, can we use the webhook to initiate runbooks or send something documentation? And I would also say yes as well, right? This
Yeah.
doesn't just have to be to an incident tool, but it can be kick off some of your responses.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the example I had was very simplistic, but you could populate like your Jira ticket or your whatever alerting tool you choose to use, right, with things like links, runbooks, You could tag specific people, etc. It's all set up in the webhook. Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, I think that did or answered that. All right. Can I host a status page on my own domain?
Yes.
I'm able to do self-hosting. All right,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. We have custom domains. So you set up the page first, and then of course you'll need to do some configuration on your end to get the custom domain stuff working. But yeah, it's all there for you.
All right, amazing. And then okay, yeah, last question here actually. And yeah, actually had a good session. Does the someone asked about historical incidents, and
Mm.
being able to track that, they need to be able to show
Yep.
that like at all times. Are you able
Yep.
to show the historical incidents in the past at all times?
Yeah, yeah. I can show you real quick. I forgot to show this, but if we jump back into our example status page, right? So we have the status tab, let's say, that gives you the constant sort of update. But then if we go to incidents, this is your history, your incident history, right? And here we can go back basically as far as you want, right? So yeah, like you have both uptime and current availability, and then you have incident history as well, if that is something that your customers are interested in.
That's awesome. That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you today. Let me see. One more question. Anything? Ooh, nice. No, one more. Can we have multiple status pages? Yes. How does multiple products work with multiple status pages and services? Are you able to build more than one? Are you able to customize it?
Yep. So you can have multiple status pages. And how things work there is that each service, so services and status pages are disconnected essentially, right? So they are separate entities. And if you have multiple status pages, that might be because you have multiple products, but it might also be because you have different customer segments that are interested in different parts of your product. Or if you have a platform, you can have like a shared authentication service across your platform. And then you have maybe several products that all use the same authentication. So if you, in that case, have monitoring on that application authentication service that is shared, you only create a single authentication service, and then you can have that on each status page. And whenever you open a single incident on that authentication service, it's then automatically posted on each status page. So you get to choose essentially, like, do you want one unique authentication service for each page, or do you want to propagate information sort of uniformly across all pages? That is entirely up to you.
Yeah, and you can also just keep each product to its each page too. You don't have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
share
yeah.
underneath.
No,
Exactly.
it's you can essentially combine this however you like to get to the setup that makes sense for you.
Yeah, and actually another question that just rolled in is kind of, I feel like answered by that, but do we have the ability to tailor incident pages for customers? So I think that in the same way as you would make multiple status pages, not for each customer, but maybe for if you have a big client or if you have a managed service like that, each customer could get their own type of status page.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? We can wait for a bit. Um, if not, though, Ricard, thank you so much for showing off Checkly Day and status pages. You can all check out Checkly status pages, sign up for a free account, checklyhq.com, and then there's an alpha program in there that you'll have to sign up for. But we would love, or not alpha program. There's GA that you have to sign up for with Enterprise, but we would love to have you on. So check it out, and thank you today for showing up as well. We'll see you at the next webinar.